Hey guys! So today I thought I would do a video on anxiety. It's something that has been heavily requested. I know that a lot of people suffer with it. I myself suffer with it. And we all feel so alone because it's such an overwhelming feeling when really there's so many of us, so it seems only normal to talk about it if you ask me. I will tell you my personal story with anxiety, especially one that I've had recently. But to begin with, I think I kind of need to explain a little bit about what anxiety is, generally speaking. Bear with me, I'm just gonna see if I can balance you right there. Anxiety is a nervous temperament, pretty much. So it's your body reacting to minor stresses as if they were major. Have you ever heard of the fight or flight response? It's now being kind of up to fight, flight, or freeze. And it's just your innate kind of response to adrenaline and to danger. It's a way of our bodies and our minds saving ourselves, I suppose, because if we were in this kind of situation where we need that kind of response, we have it. Except anxiety is when it becomes prevalent within our day-to-day lives unnecessarily. So something that we don't need to be fearful of causes us to be fearful and become either fighty or flighty. So there are lots of other different types. These are just like 6 that you've probably heard of before. Let's get started. So type 1 is GAD, or generalized anxiety disorder. This kind of means that you have to have symptoms of anxiety for 6 months or more for a general practitioner or a doctor to diagnose you with it. Anxiety is just like a nervous temperament. It's when like you're fidgety, you're agitated, you're stressed, you're constantly trying to think things through, control things. You're irritable, you're restless, you might either be nauseous or tired or just generally like exhausted because your body is literally so physically exhausted from exerting so much adrenaline so much of the time. It pretty much just means that you'd be like anxious most days. You wake up and you've got like constant like lists and stuff in your head. You're so worried about everything. You probably always think the worst of situations. And you find that you're worrying constantly to the point where it's debilitating upon your everyday life. It's not just like, oh, I'm concerned about this and oh well. It's you literally find that you will change decisions and make different choices based on those concerns and those worries. So the second type of anxiety that you might be aware of is social phobia. This is actually really common, and it pretty much just means that you get abnormally anxious in situations where you would be in public or around other people. It starts to kind of impact your life negatively in the way that you will refrain or limit social interactions because of an intense fear of humiliation or embarrassment or shame. Just with even general things like eating in public or speaking in public or speaking in front of people, you get so much anxiety about those things that it's overwhelming. The third type is a specific phobia. So it's kind of self-explanatory, this one. Pretty much exactly what it says. It is a phobia or anxiety around something specific. So this could be something like needles or flying or public transport, or you might even be fearful of peanut butter being stuck to the top of your mouth. Fourth one is OCD. OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. So it's when you are obsessive compulsive. You have like certain things that you constantly do, like little rituals or things that you feel like you have to do, like you have a compulsion and you have to act upon that. You obsess about certain things. You probably write a lot of lists. You really don't like it when things aren't a certain way. Obsessive compulsive disorder is also characterized by having like these constant unwanted thoughts. The fifth one is post-traumatic stress disorder. So a lot of people experience this. You might also have heard it called PTSD after maybe like the war or something, and like a traumatic event, maybe like a loss in the family or something like that. The sixth one is panic disorder. Panic and anxiety, although very similar, and they're probably like very closely linked. Like let's just say they're cousins, you know, like they're familiar with each other. They get each other, but they're not quite the same. They're slightly different. So an anxiety attack is when a stressor or specific trigger kind of causes you to feel the way that you are, and you associate those feelings with that. Like it's an obvious kind of link. However, a panic disorder can come on at any time spontaneously, be completely unpredictable, and it probably can be best described as like you feel like you're dying, it's a heart attack, you're not sure why you feel the way you do. It has no link to anything usually, so it can be very confusing. And if that does just happen to you randomly, like you're just sitting here and all of a sudden you can't breathe and you've got the tightest chest and you feel like you're dying, of course it's going to scare you, and that anxiety and that fear about that and the concerns that you have about that only make it worse. So there's a saying about anxiety and panic that I like, and it's anxiety breeds anxiety. So it's the more anxious you are, the more anxious you will be. If you have anxiety, the kind of things that you would feel, or the kind of symptoms that you might see in other people who are experiencing anxiety, is excessive worrying. So worrying about everything all of the time, unnecessarily most of the time as well. And they would probably be aware that it's unnecessary worry, or that it's not abnormal but irrational perhaps. But that doesn't matter. The thoughts are still there and they're still consuming your mind. Irritability, restlessness, exhaustion, like it is physically so exhausting to have those thoughts just ruminating around your mind. It honestly is. Your heart rate goes up, you could be sweating, you could be nauseous, you might actually vomit, you might actually faint. If you have generalized anxiety, you are probably likely to have some type of sleeping problem as well, just something that kind of is inhibiting you at night, either like some form of insomnia or having trouble sleeping, or waking up a lot during the night, or like having sleep gaps, so like 2 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours, but not being able to sleep the whole night through, those kind of things. So that's just kind of like general anxiety. But if you're having a panic attack, those things just kind of increase, as well as like you might get like chest pain, or like your chest just feels incredibly tight, and your airways, they feel like they've shrunk, and so getting air in is like trying to breathe through a straw whilst you're panicking. Can you imagine that? Like it's really hard. Sweating, shaking, you could have like a numb or a tingling sensation somewhere. You'll get like clammy hands. It could be like a whole range of things. So if I haven't said something and you think that you've had an anxiety attack and you had a different symptom, that's completely fine as well, because it would present different in everyone. Those are just kind of a few of the common symptoms and signs that you might feel or see in people. If they're having an anxiety attack. So panic attacks, again, they're very similar, but the only difference really is that they might think that they're actually dying, because they're not sure of why they feel the way they do. Whereas if it's an anxiety attack, you're well aware of why you're feeling the way that you are, whether it be a social situation, you feel like the walls are caving in, or you're just in a situation like where you feel like you've been put on the spot and you can't tolerate, you need to get out. Because that's what anxiety is. Again, it's the fight or flight just response kind of presenting itself in your body. The best ways to cope with anxiety in general, I find, is to become aware and kind of take control of your breathing. Becoming aware of your breath, becoming aware of whether you're inhaling from your chest or from your belly. So when you breathe in, is your stomach expanding or is your chest rising? Because when you're calm and relaxed, and the natural state that us as humans should breathe, and you'll see this if you look at a newborn baby, is your belly should actually rise when you breathe properly, not your chest. And so chest breathing is something that we've acquired as a coping mechanism for stress and anxiety. So it's shallower breathing, and it doesn't kind of provide you with the right amount of oxygen as well. So if you are stressed, you'll probably find that you are chest breathing. So bringing that awareness to yourself and then consciously changing that and breathing through your diaphragm and through your stomach instead can make a really big difference instantly, like literally instantly. I find that breathing in and out in counts helps, like trying to count to 3 or 4 on every inhale and then every exhale is a good way of controlling it, and it makes your mind kind of wander to something other than what you were originally stressing and anxious about, which is pretty much like all you need to do. So breathing would be my number 1 for sure. Number 2 is probably limit alcohol and caffeine and substances that kind of alter your natural state. The third one is sleep, because sleep is so important to our overall health and well-being. Women need, they say, about 8 to 9 hours average. Men, they think, need less, about 7 to 8 hours, but you will know within yourself how much sleep you need. The next one is exercise. So exercise can seem like a chore. If I just said like, yeah, to get rid of your anxiety, you need to exercise. People are like, oh, do I have to? And that's probably because you're not choosing an exercise that you actually love. So exercise shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't be a pain. It shouldn't be traumatic and stressful to do. You know, it shouldn't increase your anxiety. It's supposed to get rid of it. So instead of doing something that you hate, like if you don't like running and you feel like to exercise you have to go for a run, don't do it. Find something that you do enjoy. Go for a walk along the beach, go for a swim in the ocean, go for a swim in the pool, go even just walk the dog, go for a walk around the park, go count how many flowers there are on your street, just random things like that. If it's a team sport, that's even better because you can socialize as well. So whether it be like netball or basketball or baseball, anything that you love, do it. Find something that you honestly feel joy in, like indulging in, and then do that. It shouldn't be a chore. So food and hydration are obviously super important. The more processed and unnatural the state of food that you eat, the less, I suppose, natural and good you're going to feel. It's so obvious when you think about it. I mean, what you put into your body is obviously the way that you're going to feel as well. So I find that eating as many plants and whole natural foods as you can is the best way to feel good. Obviously, being a yoga teacher, I'm also going to say yoga is amazing, and it is, but if it doesn't serve you, you don't have to do it. Yoga is not supposed to be about the practice as such, like the asana practice. It's not about being able to touch your toes, you know what I mean? It's about what you learn on the way down. It's not about how flexible you are or whether you can touch your head with your feet. It's about how it makes you feel and whether you find progress and personal growth, development, and change, positive change within yourself. That's what yoga is. That's what yoga is all about. So again though, if you don't find it fun or enlightening or enjoyable, then don't do it. Simple. My background with anxiety is pretty much when I was born. I've always had bad anxiety. I've had it my whole life. I have a metabolic disorder that actually makes me incredibly anxious all the time and wired. So pretty much my adrenal system is pumping out so much more adrenaline than the average person. So I'm used to feeling like that. But when I do get like actual anxiety attacks and stuff like that, it becomes so overwhelming because my body's used to pumping out so much, and then when there's even more of it, it's just like, I don't know what's going on, which I guess is the same for everyone. I used to not go to the beach because I was terrified. I had so much anxiety that I would just, if my parents forced me to go to the beach, I would just sit down by them and not move. Like I would just freeze, literally freeze. I used to cry all the time because I was terrified of competitions and competing. It gave me so much anxiety. I would hide under dunas and stuff like that at swimming carnivals and just hope that no one saw me, and I would pretend that I was asleep so that I could avoid the kind of situation that made me feel anxious. Over my life, I've kind of started to realize that this is the worst kind of way that I could deal with it, but that is naturally what my body does and the way that I respond to certain situations. I flee. If I feel that I'm in danger of some sort, whether that danger be realistic or rational or not, whether it just be perceived, because that's often what anxiety is, it's a perceived fear rather than a rational fear, then I just flee or I pretend it doesn't exist and I just hope that it disappears. And then I remember on my 7th birthday, they brought out the cake and they started singing me happy birthday, and I freaked out, was just overcome with this wave of anxiety and just ran off to my room, locked the door, like put something behind the door, and refused, like absolutely refused to come out until everybody had left. And then apparently everyone just got used to doing that every year because I was just the same kind of stubborn, not even stubborn, just anxious girl that I was when I was 7. So my birthday since then I've never really enjoyed. I wake up and I wish the day didn't exist on the calendar. Every single year I fear people telling me happy birthday. Whether they know me or not, I hate it. It is literally one of the worst things in the whole world. I change my birthday on Facebook and stuff like that in the hopes that no one knows. So if people do know and they say happy birthday, I become cold. Like I can't even bring myself to say thank you. I don't want to acknowledge it. I just want to pretend that it doesn't exist. So I'm not a nice person on my birthday, I don't think. I literally hide away from the world. In the house, I pretend nothing and no one exists. I pretend I don't exist. And I just pretty much wish the day away, the whole day. My brother though, my eldest brother Josh, he came over with his girlfriend on my birthday and said happy birthday, and just automatically I felt uncomfortable, and he knew that, so he was like, okay, happy non-birthday, trying to make me feel better. And then they started handing me presents. So they handed me flowers and a card, and then Josh gave me a hug, and then Anna gave me a hug, and then they handed me a present as well, and there was a card, and it just became very overwhelming. And so we all went inside, and they were like, all right, let's go open it up. And they started chatting to Mum, and I literally just ran away. Like, I don't even remember doing it. All of a sudden I was just outside, and I was like hyperventilating, trying so hard not to cry, trying so hard to think about anything else. My chest was just so tight, and I couldn't really feel my hands, and I was having an anxiety attack, and I just needed to kind of breathe and step away from the situation for a while, which is what I tried to do, and my body forced me to do. I didn't choose to leave that situation, I just left. But yeah, and then Mum came out and she was like, what are you doing? And I just broke down in her arms, and she was like, go downstairs for a while, no one's down there, we won't bother you. And so I just sat down there crying for it was probably a good solid half an hour to an hour, because every time I think I was over it, all of a sudden I'd have this other wave come over me, and just thinking about it would make me cry again. Pathetic, I know, but it's what I felt. So birthdays aren't my thing. They really aren't my thing. But I enjoy everyone else's birthdays, and I love giving presents and being there on other people's birthdays. I just wish mine didn't exist. So that wasn't the best day ever. And in retrospect, I definitely could have dealt with it better. If you ever find that you're having an anxiety attack like that, there's a few things that you can do in that moment to kind of decrease the sensation that you're having and the overwhelming feelings that you're having, because it's not nice to feel like that, and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. But if you do feel like that, then you don't have to. So the first thing is just to ask yourself, is the threat real or is it perceived? So are you fearful of something that can actually hurt you, or is it all just kind of in your mind? So the next one is to rationally think to yourself, what is the worst that could happen? What is the worst outcome? And then ask yourself, thirdly, is there a true problem that can be solved? Is there something that you could do to help this situation at the moment? The next step I would say is to accept and acknowledge. Acknowledge what you're feeling and what is happening and what the kind of situation is. And then accept it, just accept, this is how I'm feeling. This is it. It's okay to feel like this. I don't have to feel anything in particular. This is just how I'm feeling at the moment, and that's okay. Sure, it's not desirable, but it's acceptable. Just like a headache. It would be better if it wasn't there, but it's there. I can live with it. And then you have the choice to change the feeling. So now that you've acknowledged that it's there and you've accepted that it's the way you're feeling, you can choose to take control of that feeling if you wish. You don't have to. So there's no stress in this situation to do anything in particular or to be anything in particular, because the worst that can happen is happening. You're stressing about something that's not even prevalent, that's not even there. So breathe, introspect, kind of bring your awareness within yourself, and again, think about either shallow or tummy breathing. Try to take control of the number of inhales and exhales that you have within a certain minute, maybe by counting or whatnot. Body awareness and scanning, even like going through your body and just trying to relax one thing at a time. So thinking like, am I holding tension in my hands? Am I making fists? Just let it go. Am I hunched over in my shoulders? Let it go. Relax the shoulders. Relax the arms. Breathe through the stomach, like loosen the legs out, shake out your feet, wiggle your toes, wiggle your hands, loosen your neck, shake out your hair even, give yourself a bit of a head rub, that always feels good. Give yourself some crazy hair. I think it's always helpful just to remind yourself that you're having an anxiety attack and nothing else is happening to you. That's the worst of it. It's not going to last forever. It will pass. I think it's also really helpful to ask yourself when you're feeling that way, is it actually a danger or is it just a discomfort? Is it something to be fearful of, or is it just making me feel uncomfortable? A good way to get your mind off of it also is to like count backwards by 3s or 7s or something like that. Something that just kind of anything that gets your mind off it. Thinking about a purple unicorn dancing through the sky. Another way to do it is to close your eyes and picture a white screen sliding across, and then a whiter screen sliding across, and then progressively the screen keeps getting wider and wider and wider. You can do this with your breathing as well, and it's just a really good way of relaxing, I find anyway. It's also good to hold things that have certain textures, so like soft pebbles or dice that have edges, or a certain kind of material, something with like a curvy edge maybe, anything that's kind of interesting to touch, and close your eyes and describe it to yourself. Put it in your fingers and describe what you're feeling. If you focus on your senses like this, it's really good. So also like things that smell amazing, you could try to smell things. Close your eyes and try to think of how many sounds you can hear. So what you can hear around you, and think and kind of select them all individually. And then think further, try to listen further. Is there something you can hear in the distance, in the sky? Is there like cars, a truck, a road, a plane, a bird, a tower, something like that that you can hear in the distance? And it's amazing how often we don't allow ourselves to do that. So when you do it, it's kind of like, wow, I have supersonic power. Woo! So that pretty much sums up anxiety and my anxiety. I hope this video has been even just a little bit helpful to you. If not, I'm really sorry for taking up so much of your time. I didn't know how to do this any quicker. Anyways, have a good day. Love you.